record-breaking aneurysm moment for me from Adam Wren, writing the worst article I've ever seen on Politico, which we will dive into. I couldn't even finish it. GOP's big bet on labor 20 hours ago from Adam Wren, presented by Meta to make it even funnier. Wait, I think they might have changed it. When Donald Trump heads to suburban Detroit Wednesday to address auto workers, yesterday when the article was first released and when I first read it, this was the first line in the article. When Donald Trump heads to suburban Detroit Wednesday to address striking auto workers. I read that first line and I was like, that's it. I'm done. Put me on a rocket ship to Mars. I don't give a shit. How can you start an article where the main premise of the article is already like a non-truthful statement that like GOP is actually retriangulating, you know what I mean? But then the first line is just an objective falsehood. And it's not just an objective falsehood. It's not just any kind of objective falsehood. I will explain this to you using terminology that liberals understand, okay? Because liberals don't really understand labor unions all that much. They don't understand like labor workers' rights all that much. Let's say Black Lives Matter is protesting yet another instance of police brutality. Joe Biden actually goes to the BLM protests and like talks alongside the actual activists on the ground. And then Trump goes instead, as he's campaigning, and like meets with the police union. And then the media covers it like Trump is showing support by talking to Black Lives Matter activists. Liberal media, mainstream media in general, even though Politico is like a right-wing dish rag for the most part, is still very liberal because everyone's liberal after all. They would never cover it like that because that is a point of contention where battle lines are drawn. This, on the other hand, labor, having no power whatsoever in the United States of America, unfortunately, is almost like turning into a culture war issue where they are desperately trying to turn this into like a wedge issue somehow, where you can just say like, well, right-wing populists care about labor too. Like, they don't. They do not. One thing that I've seen also from NPR even this morning was it's the leadership that he's at odds with, and it's the union rank and filers that love him. And that makes me want to die. You just demonstrably do not understand or are deliberately misrepresenting how unions work because the rank and file voted for Shawn Fain, the leadership. So that's number one. And number two, the rank and file also voted democratically to push forward a strike, which means that like, no, the rank and file is on board with this labor action. 98% strike authorization. And these dumb bitches are like, oh, I don't know. Like, maybe it's the rank and file that like loves Trump, but the leadership is the one who's like throwing the strikes. Like, they don't understand how this works at all. It's an actual democratic process. Now, they might be oblivious to how that works. One, because in their world, having any kind of democratic vote on action like this does not exist, or they're willingly misrepresenting it because they know that other people don't know that. This does not mean that there aren't rank and filers that love Trump or have voted for Trump. Of course there are. But utilizing that as though that is as significant, as though that this says anything about like Trump's legitimate interest in like uplifting the American working class is journalistic malpractice, is just straight up lying, actually. Fuck journalistic malpractice. It's just lying. You are lying to your audience, you Weasley little fucking liars.
Unions built the middle class.
President Biden encouraged striking auto workers to stick with it and became the first president to join a picket line.
So let's keep going. You deserve what you...
This is historic, not like historic. This is actually historic. The American government has been designed to churn out antagonistic results to labor. So when you have the American president, the head of state, actually openly support and side with the working class like this, it's fucking historic. It's a big deal.
United Auto Workers President Shawn Fain has been critical of Trump and stood with President Biden on Tuesday.
Thank you, Mr. President, for coming.
But his union is yet to endorse anyone in the race for president.
I'll tell you what, the auto workers are being sold down the river by their leadership.
Trying to drive a wedge between the leadership and the union is so funny. There's no being at odds with the union leadership. They had a 98% vote to strike. No one in the United States of America in contemporary U.S. history has reached that level of popularity in any vote. There's no ballot measures that hit that level of popular support. And we know ballot measures are significantly more popular than both parties representatives. So ridiculous for Trump to say this, and additionally ridiculous for the media to even give it any kind of light, any kind of breath whatsoever, instead of immediately shooting it down. So let's look at the both sides ass coverage on the matter here, because obviously the one aspect of this that is like truly mind-boggling, and a friend of the show Alex Press wrote about this, has been the media coverage over the matter. For days, the mainstream media has said Donald Trump is going to Michigan to speak to union auto workers. That's completely false. He is traveling there today to speak at a non-union auto parts shop at the invitation of its boss. Donald Trump is so bad at labor that he's like not just bad at workers' rights from the perspective of like any other Republican president, but he's also bad even before he was running for office. Like in his own personal life, he is like famously very bad at paying his workers. So much coverage has been done on this matter from the very same outlets that have actually covered Donald Trump because they hate Donald Trump. They've done real journalism in the past. So the fact that like Politico and all these other outlets that have written extensively on Donald Trump never paying its fucking contractors, turning around and being like, there's a real change happening here in the Republican Party and it's genuine. It's like, are they really pro-labor? Is as silly as saying that at the top of the hour there isn't a 3-minute ad break. His catchphrase is, "You're fired." Like the worst thing that a worker never wants to hear. Like, that's his fucking catchphrase. But because even the most regular-ass American wagey doesn't recognize their class position and sees themselves as temporarily embarrassed Donald Trumps, they don't even understand that, like, this guy has been openly communicating his antagonistic relationship with your existence and your class position from the jump, and you clap like a fucking seal for it. Trump is visiting at the invitation of the Drake Enterprises president, Nathan Stempel, who told Fox and Friends yesterday, some of our colleagues that we do business with reached out to us informing him that Trump wanted to hold a rally and was looking for somewhere to host. We were more than willing to do so, he said. Here it is. That's fucking, dude, he looks exactly how you expect him to look.
Give us the backstory here. Tell us how this visit came about and why you do want to host the former president.
Well, first off, thanks for having me on. It was complete luck. Some of our colleagues that we do business with reached out to us, said that the president was looking for a location to host this event. And, you know, we were more than willing to do so.
Yeah, I'm sure you are more than willing. It sounds like a great opportunity.
I'm sure you are more than willing. He's just like, yeah, we're going to kill some of our workers too in honor. We're going to sacrifice some of them in honor of Donald Trump, but we're going to do them in a pro-worker kind of way. You know what I mean? I'm sorry, but what exactly would happen if they switched to EVs? It's still a fucking car law. Electric vehicles have significantly less components and parts that these guys are actually selling. So technically, they would take a hit. A lot of the parts manufacturers, secondary market shops, would legitimately have a hard time adapting to that, maybe even full-blown lose their jobs. Plenty of parts within the engine no longer exist when we are talking about a battery. A lot less parts to worry about, no more like oil changes and things of that nature, right? So much of the marketplace would have to adapt and overcome, which I know they would be able to, for the record, except that transition must be just, which is what Shawn Fain, President Shawn Fain, talks about quite frequently, and that just transition has to happen with the federal government helping every step of the way. If that just transition is not a just transition, and they just kind of transition without putting clear, well-defined boundaries on how to do such a thing, then you're creating an environment where, capital owners are raking in the profits and utilizing the additional worker displacement to their advantage to further drive wages down. However, this is not an anti-labor union talking point, despite the fact that NPR and mainstream media is trying to use this as an anti-labor union talking point. As a matter of fact, a lot of the IRA provisions were originally supposed to have specific labor union contracts. Like, if you want to build a manufacturing facility in America with American government subsidies, you have to ensure that your shop is unionized. A lot of those provisions were taken out due to people like Joe Manchin and due to, in my opinion, and this is where I will be critical of the Brandon administration, them not fighting hard enough for it. Threaten the removal of committee positions, sick the IRS on them, sick the IRS on their families.
What do you think about President Biden going to join the picket line today? You just heard Karine Jean-Pierre get a lot of questions about it yesterday. Do you think that that's a good idea? Too little, too late? Where do you stand on that?
She's
I'm
just
not-
feeding him talking about it. She's like, is it too little too late? Come on, say something negative about that too. Let's hear what he has to say. Now, you presented him as this like brilliant, bold, beautiful representative of the working class, right? And then you had him on, even though he's a boss in a non-union shop, you had him on specifically to talk about how like devastating EVs will be for labor unions. Interesting that this is the coverage that's happening currently. Let's see what he has to say about Brandon visiting a picket line.
Much of a politician. I have 3 kids and run a manufacturing company, so I don't have time to get into politics. I did do look at some past things, and President Biden.
That's awesome. He said, I'm not a politician. I don't have time for such things. That's why I famously am doing the most apolitical thing I can do, which is be a fucking business owner who invites Donald Trump to his business that is a non-union business that has unionized alternatives, by the way, in the marketplace, that is doing this in the midst of a historic labor action in the form of the big 3 manufacturers all getting hit with strikes at the same time. But like, of course, surely this is apolitical. I am so apolitical. There is nothing political about these actions that I'm engaging in. I'm just an apolitical business owner. And to be fair, from the American liberal capitalist dogmatic sensibility, yes, he is apolitical because he is operating within the confines of the system that has been designed where his position, being apolitical, is the default position anyway. So he is doing the thing that I say all the fucking time. Like when Ben Shapiro talks about the oppressive constructs and denies their existence and can easily say, it's just common sense. He's doing that same thing. You can always appear apolitical and neutral if you are simply taking advantage of the oppressive constructs within the system in and of itself. You're being disparaging the people suffering from political oxymoronism. Yes, but of course he's also going beyond it. If he was just simply a, shop owner that was non-union, a lot of liberals would at least be on his side. They love small business. They love petty bourgeois tyrants, small business tyrants in themselves. They would maybe look at this and go, this guy seems like a real rugged, apolitical, centrist American to me. Except he's on Fox News for inviting Donald Trump to his shop. So, of course, you are not fucking apolitical, dumbass.
In 2020 said that he was going to bring 18.6 million jobs for the automotive industry. And I don't know if that has happened yet or he miscalculated his numbers. We all know that's happened before. But I'll let you answer that.
Wait, I don't get it. You just shit on the IRA and you shit on EV manufacturing and said it's going to displace workers, but you simultaneously also said he's not bringing new jobs to America, which it did. It objectively did. How many manufacturing facilities are being opened now due to the EV subsidies? Here's where the $154 billion investment in 188,000 jobs from Biden's EV push are going. Battery plants are being opened. Manufacturing facilities are being opened. Ridiculous to claim that this is just simply not true and it's just not happening. Unless you personally think that this kind of shit is not considered vehicle manufacturing because there's an E in front of it. Trump going to a non-union shop in collaboration with right-to-work interest groups in the midst of a UAW strike and mainstream media reinforcing the falsehood that he's talking to striking workers at the picket is the perfect encapsulation of fake right-wing populism and its promotion through media. They are helping Donald Trump lie in the simplest terms. One, Donald Trump is lying and saying, oh, I care about the workers. That's why I'm like going and talking to workers, right? And the media is allowing him to, in the most complicit fashion, the media is allowing him to lie this way. They're doing marketing for him. The reason why the media is doing marketing for him in this direction is because they know, one, that labor unions are currently more popular than they ever have been. So that's good for Donald Trump. And that's good for Brandon if he is actually pro-labor union, right? And B, if Donald Trump does win the labor vote or enough support in these states and becomes the president again, he will gut what remains of the marginal union power we have in this country. And that is exactly what the media wants. Biden isn't pro-union. I do not care what Biden's own personal perspective is on labor unions. If you are telling me that Joseph Robinette Biden has not been more pro-labor union his administration administration, specifically the agencies, specifically the NLRB, has not been more pro-labor union than Obama and any other contemporary American president, you are wrong. And everybody always says, railroad, railroad, railroad. I have covered the railroad thing extensively. He was openly anti-union in that regard, at least publicly, and then quietly he forced the railroad companies by lobbying them behind closed doors to meet at least some of the demands that the railroad workers unions were asking for. The railway workers unions, if you ask them, were happy with Brandon going back and getting some of these demands. They now have 4 days of paid sick leave. They were actually asking for more than that, of course. They were asking for 14, which is totally reasonable. But the reality is that Brandon did do that. These are facts. I do not care what the narrative in the media is. These are factually correct statements. I'm not going to sit there and fucking lie to you. We're thankful that the Biden administration played the long game on sick days and stuck with us for months after Congress imposed our updated national agreement, Russo said. Without making a big show of it, Joe Biden and the members of his administration in the transportation and labor departments have been working continuously to get guaranteed paid sick days for all railroad workers. I'm sorry, as much as I like to shit on Joseph Robinette and his administration, this is one area where the full story is a little bit different. Does that mean PDB was involved? That is the worst aspect of the story that I hate covering. But yes, according to insider sources at least, Pete Buttigieg was personally involved in lobbying the railroad companies in an effort to push for these paid sick days. Friend of the show, beautiful boy Will Menaker, also had a really funny Josh Hawley moment. Josh Hawley attended the picket line and said, privileged to visit the picket line in Wentzville today. These workers deserve better pay, better benefits, and guarantee their jobs will stay in America. Josh Hawley back in 2015. Right to work override fails in Missouri House. Time for an end to union-backed candidates in the GOP. Hashtag change is coming. Hashtag right to work. Now, do you think Josh Hawley legitimately had a change of heart? After all, 2015 is a long time ago. Maybe he changed. Yeah. You're a fucking dumbass if you think that there's a genuine change here, especially when you parse through the words that these fucking clever politicians sometimes put out there. It's pure populism with no real interest in backing the actual pro-labor position. He did not genuinely change his attitude. He just recognizes that when there is no real divide and labor unions can barely make material change in their own workplaces due to a century of anti-union sentiment being firmly planted in the collective consciousness of Americans and the legislative and judicial body absolutely gutting any matter of marginal labor protections that we had codified, they can comfortably assume the position of being pro-labor without actually being pro-labor. They can do that now. Labor unions also offer ratings to politicians. The AFL-CIO has a lifetime score. It's not just the NRA that has lifetime scores in grading. Josh Hawley's lifetime score from the AFL-CIO is literally 12% and a 0% agreement rating in the most recent United Auto Workers Labor Union scorecard. So do you have to be labortribune.com to come across this information? Is this not readily available to you? Are you a fucking journalist? Or are you a goddamn mouthpiece for the administration? Click on the AFL-CIO, Google it, and you will find this pretty quickly. I'm a fucking dumbass himbo sitting in his house in Los Angeles, California. If I can fucking find this information this easily, you can too. You work for Politico. Your job is literally to do this, to go, Josh Hawley seemingly is pro-labor. Let's investigate that further. But there's more. Headline is false too. New York Times article itself notes his presidency was one of the most anti-labor, even by GOP standards. Rest of the article doesn't seem to know what a union is, conflating him with Trump's MAGA fiction of workers. Some workers are unionized, some aren't. Trump, weighing in on auto strike, has a mixed legacy on unions. Where is the mixed legacy? He has never been mixed on unions. He's always been anti-union. What the fuck? Donald Trump is not speaking to striking auto workers on UAW members today. Why are there so many mainstream outlets bending over backwards to make it seem like he is? Trump bets big on Michigan with rally on GOP debate night as UAW strike continues. Former President Donald Trump, the undisputed frontrunner, will not be one of them. He instead will skip the event to travel to Michigan where he plans to court the vote of auto workers. By Biden and Trump are courting striking auto workers, says the New York Times. Donald Trump is expected to speak to union members in Detroit. Not true. Biden and Trump focus on wooing union workers, underlining their swing state power, says experts. What are you the expert at? Being a fucking idiot? This is how you manufacture consent. Donald Trump plans to skip the second Republican presidential debate on Wednesday, instead to court unionized employees with remarks outside of Detroit. None of this is true. I do not know, and I will not say 100% without a shred of doubt that this is deliberate and malicious, but goddamn, this level of journalistic malpractice has to be. Like, how can you be this incompetent? You have no brain processing power? Like, what's going on up there? Is it just a fucking hollowed out shell or something? In 2004, Donald Trump crossed one of our picket lines in New York as workers on The Apprentice spoke up to get paid fairly. He's the most anti-worker, anti-union president in U.S. history. Yeah. Even Wolf Blitzer had Shawn Fain on to talk about the situation. And in my opinion, it was a rather odd conversation.
As you know, former President Trump will travel to Michigan tomorrow to give a speech to auto workers in Detroit. Many of your members are supporters of his. Is the former president right? Does the push for electric vehicles here in the United States hurt your union?
It doesn't if it's a just transition, and that's what we're fighting for right now. It doesn't if the companies do the right thing and put this work under, our agreements or to our standards. And again, it's the companies driving this race to the bottom, and they're using our tax dollars to finance it. And, I find a pathetic irony that the former president is going to hold a rally for union members at a non-union business. And, all you have to do is look at his track record. His track record speaks for itself. In 2008, during the Great Recession, he blamed UAW members. He blamed our contracts for everything that was wrong with these companies. That's
Hold up. Shawn, you're spitting a little too hard. Wolf, cut the feed.
That's a complete lie. In 2015, when he was running for president, he talked about doing a rotation, taking all these good paying jobs in the Midwest and moving them somewhere in the South where people work for less money, and then to make people beg for their jobs back at lower wages. And the ultimate show of his, how much he cares about our workers, was in 2019 when he was the president of the United States. Where was he then? Our workers at GM were on strike for 60 days, for 2 months. They were out there on the picket lines. I didn't see him hold a rally. I didn't see him stand up at the picket line, and I sure as hell didn't hear him comment about it.
So here's the question.
Boom! Wolf comes in and he's like, all right, you spat too hard. Okay, Shawn, how about you shut the fuck up a little bit? And let me ask another completely irrelevant question about how will you show support to Donald Trump?
What about the meeting with Trump? Would you meet with him when he's in Detroit tomorrow?
I see no point in meeting with him because I don't think the man has any bit of care about what our workers stand for.
The real purpose of that question, in my opinion, in that situation, if he says yes, then they can, 1, sow division in the union, and 2, use it against them later and use it against like labor unions later down the line.
Or what the working class stands for. He serves a billionaire class, and that's what's wrong with this country.
Well, that effectively sounds as an endorsement for Biden. Am I wrong?
It's not an endorsement for anyone. It's just a flat out how I view the former president.
I don't get it. There's no other alternative. So that means you like Biden, right? Like, you like Biden. I mean, the UAW most likely will lend support to Biden later down the line, but I do understand why you want to play your cards close to your chest, especially at a time like this when you can get help from the president, demand that help from the president, and make him earn the support of a labor union with 145,000 members in key states that will determine the outcome of the next election. He's got a lot of leverage. He should use it. He's very smart, and he's using it appropriately. Suck my dick, Wolf Blitzer. Chris Marchione, a political director of the International Union of Painters and Allied Trades, District Council 1M in Michigan, told me that the non-union auto manufacturers in the Trump campaign are being assisted in organizing today's rally by at least one longtime local activist in the state's right-to-work movement. I want you to understand, these guys, like Trump, is not just going to a non-union shop, but he's getting assistance on the ground from right-to-work people. Right-to-work is the clever way, because Republicans never say what they actually mean. You know how they don't say we're pro-forced making you give birth. We're pro-life. And it's the same as that. Right to work is actually right to fire. Right to work is actually no rights for unions. That anti-union movement suffered a major defeat earlier this year when Michigan became the first state in years to repeal a right-to-work law. But it has by no means ceased its efforts to disorganize workers and undermine their unions. Who was at the helm of that movement? Who was the one who fucking signed it? Motherfucking Big Gretch, baby. That's right. Marchione comes from a family that includes several generations of UAW members. He says that several members of his family, current UAW members in Michigan, received text messages from the right-to-work activist, also a UAW member, who invited them to attend the Trump rally. People are trying to push that this is inorganic, but it's not, said Marchione. My cousins are all UAW members. Every one of them got a text message. People that are trying to push this is organic, but it's not. The organizers are picking who they want. They want prospective attendees to pass along their social media profiles. Trump is curating a crowd, and it pisses me off. If you want to support union workers, pay the fucking glaziers who got screwed when they put the windows on Trump Tower. Mainstream media would rather repeat a Trump-manufactured narrative, which uses a strike involving 150,000 working class people as an object to be exploited for political posturing instead of informing readers on the basis of fact. It's proof of the continued validity of the critiques of bourgeois press. It is a propaganda machine by and for the rich, even with liberal outlets putatively opposed to Trump taking his bait hook, line, and sinker. Their coverage of his visit to Michigan is a canary in the coal mine, a warning and reminder as the presidential race heats up. A Trump victory in 2024 would be good for ratings. It would also be good for business on the business side. Now, Eric Levitz did I think, decent job of covering this. He is definitely a lot better in mainstream media than many other writers, where he basically uses an opportunity to show how abysmal and how silly Trump's fake populism is. God bless the USA. It would have went harder if we played Ia-Cha, Ia-Cha. Come on. I love that song, but like Ia-Cha, Ia-Cha would have been so much better, dude. Come on.
This is great. We're in this room where we wanted to keep it small, and outside we have thousands and thousands of people. Have you seen what's going on out there? But I'm thrilled to be back with the workers, UAW members, and proud patriots of the great state of Michigan. Great state, great people. Here in Michigan and across the country tonight, there are countless thousands of auto workers and skilled tradesmen worried about the future and what the future holds for themselves and for their incredible families.
It's funny to be like, oh, dude, we're going to do EV cars and it's going to ruin your jobs. And it's like, well, who the fuck's going to make the EV cars, idiot? Someone's going to make the EV cars, stupid, and the batteries too.
Sucking out of our country. I want a future that protects American labor, not foreign labor. A future that puts
this is so funny because this literally moving in the direction of EV just as the rest of the world will make us competitive with the rest of the world so that we do not lose out to the rest of the world. Once again, the exact opposite.
Under crooked Joe Biden, you have none of this. You have none of the things we want. Instead of economic nationalism, you have ultra left-wing globalism. They hate our country. And the workers of America are getting, to put it very nicely,
that's new. This is new.
Screwed. Yesterday, Joe Biden came to Michigan to pose for photos at the picket line. But it's his policies that send Michigan auto workers to the unemployment line. He only came after I announced that I would be here. You know, he announced quite a bit later. Spoke for a few seconds. Did you notice he spoke for what, a few seconds? And he had absolutely no idea what he was saying. He didn't know where he was. He didn't know where he was. He didn't know what we were saying. Where am I? He's saying, where am I? Oh, you're in Michigan. Oh, that's good.
I'm gonna get more mad.
Michigan?
I fear I'm gonna get more mad than I ever have.
Don't they grow wheat? No, that's Iowa and other places. Biden's cruel and ridiculous electric.
Look at all these unionized workers booing a president attending a picket line.
Vehicle mandates that will spell the death of the U.S. auto industry. You know, it doesn't matter. I watch it. You're negotiating a contract. You're all on picket lines and everything, but it doesn't make a damn bit of difference what you get, because in 2 years you're all going to be out of business. You're not getting anything. A vote for Crooked Joe means the future of the auto industry will be made in China. That's what's going to be. That's where they're made.
Yeah, idiot. If we don't make them, they will be made in China. So he's not wrong. It's just that he's entirely wrong when he says, like, oh,
America,
yeah,
where it should be.
the EVs are going to be made in China and we're not going to allow it.
It will be fueled by American energy. It will be sourced by American suppliers. It will be sculpted from American iron, aluminum, and steel, and it will be built by highly skilled American hands and high-wage American labor. That's what's going to happen. That's what's going to happen. And we'll do it first day in office.
And for the
Look at
record,
the
none
money
of
he
these
got
none
from
of these
China.
people are fucking
Look at what's
UAW
coming
picketers,
out.
okay?
China.
Let's be real.
Biden also backed a gentleman named Barack Hussein Obama. Have you ever heard of him? And his atrocious Korean trade deal.
Dude, people in Michigan booing Barack Obama is so funny. I mean, it's like
Sucking
Flint.
globalist attack, and they were building plants here again. Now the plants are going back to Mexico, and they're going back to China. And he's coming back.
Much is to be made about this entire fucking sham, this mockery that I have geared you to understand has been a sham and mockery for the past week or so. But there is something that deeply offends me to my core, and that is a group of fucking charlatans screeching and clapping like a bunch of horny seals in that room. When I hear Donald Trump's idiotic fucking sentiment get such a warm, raucous response, I die. I die a little bit inside.
And then perhaps my greatest unsung achievement, I kept Chinese cars the hell out of America. Is that okay with you? Is that okay? UAW, is that okay? And a lot of people don't know this, but I imposed a whopping 27.5% tariff and tax on all Chinese automobiles coming into our country. And this magnificent tariff, they can't get it off because they make so much money with it. And by the way, if they took it off, you'd be out of business right away. They want it.
Bro, it's so funny. He's like addressing the UAW without the UAW
It
president.
would take over your industry totally.
Like it's just
But it
make
remains
believe
in place
at this
to
point. You
day.
know what I mean?
Not because they wanted to, but because they sort of have no choice. And it's no exaggeration to state that the Trump presidency and the deftly used and applied Trump tariffs and taxes saved the American auto industry from extinction.
He didn't just put a
time
tariff
and
on
time
Chinese
again.
automobiles. He put a tariff on a lot of Chinese goods, which then, of course, translated to higher costs to the American people.
Right
but
now.
that's different.
We have unlimited gasoline. Remember that. We have unlimited. China doesn't. We have unlimited gasoline. For 500 years, we have gasoline, more than any other country in the world. We have the best stuff. Now we're getting it. We're taking tar. Tar. You know what tar is? It's like tar that they have to refine. You know where they refine it? In Houston, Texas. We take tar now from Venezuela. Venezuela was supposed to be the bad guys. Venezuela's getting rich. We're refining their tar.
Okay.
And we're not taking our beautiful.
The funny thing about oil, and the real reason why many oil and gas industry giants are already like hedging their bets against oil by purchasing renewable energy, is that it's not infinite. As a matter of fact, it's finite. And that's part of the reason why there's not an endless supply, and we're done. We're done. It's a ticking time bomb.
And the cost of operation is also much more. He
said we got unlimited
their
gas.
option,
That's
though,
not
if they want
true.
them. It's their option.
Also, unlimited gas is another step towards against any kind of sovereignty that we can have from the oil cartel. It's OPEC, baby. Well, I mean, obviously Trump doesn't fear MBS because MBS has said that he is fine with Donald Trump. He likes Donald Trump. I'm pretty sure he would be on board with Donald Trump becoming president. Trump has literally touted how he has a unlimited line of credit to Saudi Arabia that will purchase his real estate properties for whatever price he sets them as though that's like not an important thing to fucking think about when you're running for president, even though he did say that in a deposition in the New York case. But ultimately, the expectation that like Donald Trump is going to be able to control oil prices and not be on the whims of OPEC Plus is fucking silly.
No, we're
He said 500 years. Stop twisting his words.
you look at the thousands of people outside that couldn't get in. Why didn't you build a bigger plant? I'd like to.
My bad. He said it's
but we're
finite.
here today at
500
Drake
years.
Enterprises, a family-owned and operated Michigan auto parts supplier. Under a Trump administration, gasoline engines will be allowed. And sex changes for children will be banned. Is that okay? I think we have it. Can you believe it?
Yeah, he's like much more appealing and funny when he's not in front of a crowd of like psychotic fucking thirsty monsters who are just chirping and screeching and cackling like a bunch of hyenas.
Say
you know?
it because that's what they're doing.
Like when I see the impact that his words have on the ground, all of a sudden I am once again reminded that this is a legitimate problem and this man is running for president and he's going to fuck up the country again.
Do me a favor. Just get your union guys, your leaders, to endorse me. Okay? And I'll take care of the rest.
Get the fuck out of here.
Because in looking over the statistics now, they're saying, but the real number will be 100%. Because under Biden's mandate, the entire car industry will be packed up and shipped to China. And every time Joe Biden and the UAW's political leadership talk about a fair transition to all electric cars,
UAW's political leadership is in the wrong.
Labor will be under siege. It's not going to work for you. It can't work. To the striking workers, I support you in your goal of fair wages and greater stability, and I truly hope you.
I'm not kidding. I do legitimately believe he will lose Michigan by a wider margin than he did last time because of not just even the symbolic actions that he's engaging in
Where'd
here.
you get it? Just doesn't make
So
it.
that is the only thing that makes me feel kind of confident and happy about this entire process. I fucking despise him.
In other words, your current negotiations don't mean as much as you think. I mean, I watch you out there with the pickets, but I don't think you're picketing for the right thing. But if they endorse me, your leadership, you can tell them I said it, although I have a feeling they may be watching tonight.
What?
Because, you know, when Biden came here yesterday, they only had 11 people. I'll bet you we have 10,000 people standing outside.
What?
Right? I think we do. That's... In fact, for a little while, we're driving through and the people are going crazy. I said,
well,
is this
guys, this is the most pro-union president of all time, dude. He said, your fucking union sucks, and you're not going to get your demands.
No, but I said, is this a rally? We're driving through thousands and thousands of people.
Fuck your strike. Get back to work, peasants.